Imagine spending your entire life, like, building the most dominant company in the world. You amass billions of dollars. You optimize every single minute of your daily routine.
Right. You absolutely crush all your competitors.
Exactly. And then you're lying on your deathbed and you suddenly realize that literally all of it brought you the exact same amount of lasting structural joy as trying to catch a handful of wind.
Yeah. I mean, that is the ultimate modern nightmare right there. We are just a culture obsessed with optimization, with legacy and leaving a dent in the universe.
Oh, totally.
We spend decades climbing this massive ladder of success, and we're just absolutely terrified of the day we might look around and realize the ladder was leaning against the wrong wall the entire time.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because if you are caught up in today's intense hustle culture, or if you're constantly drowning in the pressure to be productive every waking second, you really need the material we are diving into today.
You definitely do.
In this deep dive, we are looking at an ancient, highly philosophical text derived from the sources we've gathered on the book of Ecclesiastes. And we're exploring its deeply unsettling yet ultimately liberating take on what actually gives a human life meaning.
Yeah, and it is a fascinating text.
We're going to look at why our obsession with novelty is a trap, why the smartest people often feel the most pain, and where you can find actual tangible joy when everything around you just feels chaotic and unpredictable.
Right. And to find that genuine joy, the philosophy we are looking at refuses to let us take any comforting shortcuts.
No shortcuts at all.
None. It forces us to first confront a brutally honest assessment of how the universe actually operates. It strips away a lot of our, comforting illusions.
And the author of this text doesn't hold back at all. They start by observing the physical environment, pointing out that the natural world is just an endless series of repetitive loops.
Endless loops, yeah.
The sun rises, it sets, and then it just hurries right back to where it started. The wind blows south, turns north, and swirls in a constant circle. And rivers endlessly pour into the sea, but the sea is never actually full.
Which is such a great image.
Right. And the author concludes this observation with a famous line, "There is nothing new under the sun."
Mm-hmm.
The argument is that everything that will ever happen has literally already happened.
Which is a profound assault on our modern obsession with progress. I mean, we desperately want to believe that our generation is creating unprecedented novelty.
Like we're the special ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We think the next app, the next technological breakthrough or social movement is going to fundamentally change the human condition.
Yeah.
But the author is looking at the sheer scale of geological time and seeing an unbreakable cycle of repetition where, human nature never actually shifts.
And before we can even find real meaning, we have to face that reality. Because that lack of fundamental change becomes even more glaring when the text shifts to human ambition.
Oh, yeah. The massive projects.
Right. The author describes taking on these massive civilization-level projects, building enormous estates, planting vast vineyards, constructing massive irrigation pools,
Just amassing unthinkable amounts of gold and silver.
and acquiring immense political power. But after accumulating literally all of this, they look at their empire and call it vanity, or in some translations, emptiness. They describe the pursuit of all this wealth as being like catching the wind.
That specific phrase, catching the wind, perfectly captures the psychology of ambition. I mean, you can feel the wind on your face, you can see it moving the trees.
It feels very real.
It feels incredibly real, but the physical act of trying to close your fist around it yields absolutely nothing.
Wow, yeah.
The author is describing the dopamine hit of ambition. We believe that acquiring the next house, the next promotion, whatever milestone, will finally fill that internal void.
But it doesn't.
No. Just like the sea that never fills up despite the rivers flowing into it, human desire is structurally incapable of being satisfied by material accumulation.
And the sources take it a step further, arguing that it isn't just material wealth that leaves us empty. Even the pursuit of immense transcendent wisdom is described as exhausting.
Right.
The text claims that he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Now, I have to push back on this premise just a bit.
Okay, go for it.
When I read about this ancient figure building massive pools and empires, I instantly thought of modern tech billionaires. The people pouring their fortunes into building colonies on Mars or buying up communication platforms.
The literal empire builders of today.
Exactly. So if getting literally everything you could ever possibly want just feels like grasping at the wind, Why is human nature so deeply, stubbornly wired to keep building these empires?
What's fascinating here is that the text is actively diagnosing that exact stubbornness. It is dismantling the concept of human exceptionalism.
Okay, how so?
Well, we build these modern empires, whether that is a literal rocket company or just, a meticulously curated personal brand, because we are desperate to believe that we are the exception to the rule of mortality.
Oh, wow. We're trying to cheat death.
Exactly. We want to cheat death by ensuring our legacy endures.
Yeah.
But the author realizes something terrifying that collapses that entire project. Both the infinitely wise billionaire and the absolute fool meet the exact same fate.
They both die.
They both die, and on a long enough timeline, they are both completely forgotten.
When you lay it out like that, it sounds incredibly bleak. It just feels like a recipe for total despair.
It does feel that way initially, but
Yeah.
we have to ask why this realization actually matters psychologically. Stripping away the illusion that our great works give us permanent, everlasting significance is actually the painful first step to real freedom.
Wait, freedom? How is that freedom?
Think about it. If your entire self-worth is tied to a legacy that is guaranteed to eventually turn to dust, you are living as a hostage to a future you can't control.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Acknowledging that you cannot permanently alter the fabric of the universe frees you from the crushing everyday weight of trying to play God. Okay, so if our grandest achievements, our wealth, and even our superior intellect don't actually secure our legacy, what actually dictates the course of our lives?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right. The sources argue that our lives are governed by forces completely outside our mastery: timing, random chance, and mortality.
The great uncontrollable equalizers.
Yeah. And the text lays this out in a famous poetic sequence. It states, "For everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to build up, a time to break down."
And a time to keep silence and a time to speak.
Exactly. And then it hits us with a reality check that feels almost scandalous,
Yeah.
especially for an ancient text. It says, humans and beasts share the exact same breath.
Yeah, that's a harsh one.
We share the identical fate of returning to the dust. The author point-blank declares, man has no advantage over the beasts.
Which completely flattens the artificial hierarchy we've constructed in our minds. We like to think our capacity for complex thought elevates us above the natural order.
Right, because we can reason.
Right. But mortality renders that distinction completely irrelevant at the finish line.
And it doesn't just flatten our relationship with nature. It completely destroys the myth of a perfect meritocracy.
Oh, absolutely.
The text points out that the race is not always to the swift. The battle is not always to the strong. Bread doesn't automatically go to the wise. Time and random chance happen to absolutely everyone.
There's no escaping it.
There's this vivid story included about a small city. A great, powerful king laid siege to it, but inside that city was a poor, wise man. This man used his strategic wisdom to save the entire city from destruction.
He was the ultimate hero.
He was, but afterward. The text says no one remembered the poor man. His brilliance saved them all, and time still erased his name.
Because time and chance care absolutely nothing for our human concepts of fairness or justice. You can do everything flawlessly and still lose.
That makes me think of like a highly calculated stock trade or a massive sports bet. You can spend months doing all the research. You can analyze the stats, hedge your bets, pick the team with the swiftest runner and the strongest defense.
Your logic is bulletproof.
Bulletproof. But a bizarre injury in the first 5 seconds of the game, or a totally unpredictable global market fluctuation, and your entire perfect plan is ruined.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Amidst all this terrifying unpredictability, the text finds this strange, raw comfort. It uses this incredible proverb, "A living dog is better than a dead lion."
Context is so crucial for that imagery. In the ancient world, a lion was the absolute pinnacle of majesty, royalty, and power.
Right.
A dog, on the other hand, was not a pampered pet. It was a despised street scavenger.
So the author is saying that being a total nobody who is simply breathing is infinitely better than being a majestic king who is in the grave.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how radically this challenges the dominant messages you hear every single day.
Oh, for sure.
Modern culture constantly tells you that if you just optimize your routine enough, if you wake up at 4 a.m., take the right supplements, and hustle hard enough, you can guarantee your own success.
Yeah, the whole you create your own luck mindset.
Right. And this philosophy completely shatters that myth. It tells you that you are fundamentally subject to random chance and circumstance entirely beyond your control.
Which sounds terrifying.
It does. But while surrendering that control sounds terrifying, it's actually profoundly liberating. It relieves you of the toxic pressure of believing that every single failure in your life is entirely your own fault. Sometimes it's just the season. Sometimes it is just random chance.
So since we can't control our ultimate fate or legacy, this shift in perspective naturally forces us to reconsider how we operate in the present moment.
Absolutely.
Like, how are you and I supposed to navigate our careers, our wealth, and our ambitions right now, today?
Well, the author turns their attention to the psychology of wealth, specifically diagnosing how the obsessive accumulation of it becomes a hidden prison.
And the comparison the text makes here is fascinating. It contrasts a manual laborer with a wealthy elite. It observes that the sleep of a laboring worker is sweet, regardless of whether they eat a little or a lot.
Right.
But the abundance of the rich man will literally not let him sleep. And the underlying logic is brutally practical. Naked we come from the womb, and naked we depart. We take absolutely none of this accumulated wealth with us.
The psychological mechanism here is the fear of loss. I mean, the more abundance you hoard, the more variables you have to manage.
More things to go wrong.
Exactly. The more you have to lose, and the more violently you have to protect your borders. The laborer sleeps because their day is done. The hoarder stays awake because their wealth demands constant vigilance.
The rich man who can't sleep because of his abundance, that is the ancient equivalent of modern executive burnout.
Oh, 100%.
It's a person staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., doom scrolling, monitoring international markets, terrified of a 5% downturn because they've tied their entire identity to that portfolio.
It's exhausting.
It is. And the text highlights this as the tragedy of the solitary worker. It asks us to imagine a person with no family, no real companions, who just toils endlessly. Their eyes are never satisfied with their wealth.
And they never stop to ask themselves the real question.
Right. They never ask, wait, for whom am I working so hard and depriving my own soul of joy?
That is such a piercing, necessary question. For whom am I depriving myself? We often disguise our ambition as providing for our family or building a secure future, right?
Yeah, that's always the excuse.
But when the accumulation becomes an obsession, it isolates us from the very people we claim to be working for.
And the author offers a direct antidote to this isolation, stating that two are better than one. If one falls, the other is there to lift them up. It uses the metaphor that a threefold cord is not easily broken.
Such a powerful image of community.
It really is. But I have to challenge this philosophy for a second. If the text is arguing that hoarding wealth is a trap, and that all human ambition is just catching the wind, is it telling us to just stop striving altogether?
Like, just give up.
Yeah. If everything is meaningless in the end, isn't this just a recipe for complete apathy?
This raises an important question, and it is the absolute pivot point of the entire text. The answer is emphatically not apathy. What the author is demanding is radical reprioritization.
Okay, reprioritization.
Right. The philosophy isn't claiming that work itself is bad. It is warning that the isolated, obsessive accumulation of wealth at the expense of human connection is a horrific trap.
And the text uses vivid imagery for this, right? Comparing a little foolishness ruining a wise life to dead flies making a perfumer's beautiful ointment stink.
Yeah, it warns that if you dig a pit to trap someone else, you'll inevitably fall into it yourself. The enemy isn't ambition. The enemy is isolation and the illusion of control.
So true wealth is found elsewhere.
True wealth is found in connection and peace of mind. The challenge for you as the listener is to honestly evaluate your own life. Are you playing the role of the solitary worker? Are you sacrificing your present reality, your relationships, and your mental health for a future legacy that random chance could just, wipe out tomorrow?
That requires a level of self-awareness that is genuinely uncomfortable.
It really does.
But it pushes us toward the most practical part of this deep dive. If we accept that life is unpredictable and we realize that hoarding wealth and isolation is a toxic trap, what is the actual game plan? When you wake up tomorrow morning, how are you supposed to live?
The author's prescription is surprisingly grounded, yet it is incredibly difficult for modern people to actually practice.
Why is it so hard?
Because it requires letting go of future anxieties.
Right. The text essentially commands joy. It tells you to eat your bread with joy, drink your wine with a merry heart, enjoy life with your spouse all the days of your fleeting, unpredictable life.
It even takes a surprisingly pragmatic view of money.
It does, noting that money answers everything, and a feast is made for laughter. It's basically giving you permission to actually enjoy the fruits of your labor while you still have the capacity to taste them.
It is a deeply sensory philosophy. It pulls you out of your abstract anxieties about the future and forces you back into your physical body in the present moment.
But it doesn't just tell you to sit around enjoying your bread. It encourages active risk-taking despite the uncertainty. The text says, "Cast your bread upon the waters."
Which is an ancient idiom for engaging in maritime trade.
Right. You put your goods on a ship and send it out to sea, not knowing if a storm will sink it. It advises dividing your portions into 7 or 8. Essentially an ancient call for diversifying your investments.
Because you simply don't know what disaster might happen on the earth.
The psychological insight there is profound. Just because you can't control the outcome doesn't mean you shouldn't act.
You diversify your risks exactly because the world is unpredictable.
I absolutely love the line that follows. "He who observes the wind will never sow." If a farmer stands in the field paralyzed, waiting for the perfect, risk-free weather conditions, they will never plant their seeds.
And they will absolutely starve. You have to take action in the face of the unknown.
So what does this all mean? To me, this philosophy sounds remarkably like the modern mindfulness movement, but like significantly grittier.
Grittier is a great word for it.
Modern mindfulness often gets packaged as this pristine state of Zen you achieve by meditating in a perfectly quiet room. But this ancient text is saying, no, mindfulness is eating a really good sandwich, genuinely tasting the bread, and deeply enjoying the laugh of the person sitting across from you.
Simply because tomorrow is promised to absolutely no one.
Exactly.
That is the profound paradox at the very heart of these sources. The author is commanding us to aggressively, intentionally enjoy life because it is fleeting and unpredictable, not in spite of it.
It's completely different framing.
It is. We are culturally conditioned to think that if life is short and we are ultimately forgotten, we should fall into despair. But the text argues that accepting our limits is the exact key that unlocks the door to freedom.
When you finally stop trying to control the universe.
Right. When you stop trying to build a permanent, indestructible monument to yourself, you are suddenly free to experience present joy without guilt. You eat the bread because the bread is good today, and today is all you actually have.
It's a massive cognitive shift. But we must act on this realization now, because time is actively running out. And the author knows human nature. They know we'll be tempted to procrastinate on this realization.
Oh, we always do. But the fleeting nature of life isn't just an abstract concept. It is a physical reality that catches up to all of us.
The final chapter begins with a stark, urgent warning. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth before the evil days come. And then it launches into this hauntingly beautiful, highly poetic description of the aging process.
The slow breakdown of the physical body.
Yeah. It describes how the keepers of the house tremble, which is a metaphor for your hands starting to shake. The grinders cease. You start losing your teeth. Those looking through the windows grow dim, meaning your eyesight begins to fail.
Such evocative imagery.
And finally, the imagery peaks with the silver cord snapping, the golden bowl breaking, and the pitcher shattering at the fountain. The body gives out, and the dust returns to the earth as it was.
It is a breathtaking and entirely unsentimental piece of literature. It refuses to let you look away from the reality of your own physical decay. The house you inhabit is temporary, and it will inevitably dismantle itself.
And right after this incredibly heavy, profound meditation on death, the author throws in a meta-commentary that completely caught me off guard.
A book quote.
Yes, they write, "Of making many books there is no end, and much study wearies the body." It's almost funny in its relatability.
It really is.
It is the ancient equivalent of having 50 browser tabs open, a massive stack of unread articles on your desk, and constantly refreshing your feed for new information. You can study forever. You can endlessly consume data trying to find the ultimate secret to life.
And eventually it will just exhaust your physical body.
Because even the pursuit of meaning, if taken to an extreme, becomes just another treadmill. There comes a point where you have to stop researching how to live and actually start living.
Exactly.
The ultimate conclusion the text reaches, after stripping away wealth, legacy, and even endless study, is to fear God and keep His commandments. For this is the whole duty of man, knowing that every action is ultimately brought to judgment.
Right.
Now, for a modern listener, that might sound like a sudden pivot to strict religious dogma. But in the context of everything we've discussed, how should we understand that ending?
In the broader philosophical context of this text, fearing God isn't about cowering in terror before a dictator. It is a call for ultimate cosmic humility.
Cosmic humility, I like that.
It is the profound, sobering reverence for the overwhelming scale and grand design of the universe. It means accepting that you are not the center of the cosmos. Keeping the commandments and recognizing judgment brings a necessary order back to the chaos. It tells us that while our massive empires might fade, our daily individual choices still carry profound moral weight.
So it's not apathy at all.
Far from it. You are called to enjoy the present moment, but you must do so with integrity, recognizing that your actions matter in the grand scheme of things, even if you don't fully understand how.
It is a brilliant balancing act between accepting our insignificance and recognizing our immediate responsibility.
It truly is.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to speak directly to you listening. Take a moment today to step off the cosmic treadmill. Stop trying to close your fist around the wind.
Let it go.
Close those 50 extra browser tabs that are just generating anxiety. Go eat your bread today and actually taste it. Call a friend so you aren't stuck as the solitary worker. Embrace the messy, unpredictable season you are actually in, rather than exhausting yourself wishing for a different one.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, a sort of philosophical twist on everything we've just explored.
Lay it on us.
We discussed how the memory of both the brilliant genius and the absolute fool is eventually erased by the relentless march of time. We almost always view that as a tragedy. But consider this alternative.
Okay.
If our permanent legacy is guaranteed to be erased, does that mean our actions only have true, undeniable value in the exact fraction of a second that we perform them? Does the absolute inevitable erasure of human history actually make this exact present second infinitely more precious than any permanent monument you could ever build?